Hey guys, welcome back. I'll show you what we've done and what we are in the middle of. So follow along. So as you can see, we're tearing into this front end here. And these have a press in, and I call it a knuckle seal. Okay, so these things, they get kind of corroded in here. You can see a little bit of crust and rust. All right, so I always try to clean these up with like a Scotch-Brite. Try to get rid of the rust that's in there, and then I put a light layer of grease in here, so that way it's a little bit easier for the knuckle seal to slide in because it needs to be pressed in. So a lot of guys don't want to buy the press tool. So I had built this because I did not plan on doing a bunch of these front ends. I had did this because I was in a pinch and needed it. So 2-inch cap, and as you can see, it's well used. And then I basically just ground the edge off here and took a floor flange and made it fit the stub shaft and clearance the outside edge. So this is what I use to seat my knuckle seals, and it's something that at the time was cheaper than buying the actual tool, but anymore with the cost of pipe, it might be worth it to just buy the tool. So if you don't have access to a tool and need it right now, you can build one of these yourself from your local hardware store. And the reason you chamfer that floor flange is because of this right here. So as you can see, it sticks out a little bit, and you don't want to be marking this flange all up or the shoulder on that stub axle. So we're replacing this axle shaft because we replaced the other side. But one other thing that I want to show you is when we brought this truck in here with the axles and everything, the ball joints were good, and then I started to look a little closer. So yeah, that ball joint is junk, and there is play in these ones, and the other side had a little bit of play. We got the knuckle off of here, and as you can see, that bottom one was all dry rotted as well. So no surprise there. As you can see, we got a lot of crap to clean out of here still. One thing I do like to do, so this is a factory bushing, and it is only set one way here, so it's not adjustable. So it does not spin. It is not a adjustable one. So you can actually pull that out of there and clean it up a little bit and just put a light layer of anti-seize around it. So that way, if you do end up having to take this to an alignment shop, which you should after doing ball joints, that assembly will come out very easily for the techs. And they will be very happy that it comes out, because a lot of guys won't do these trucks because it's still the old technology where you have to change the actual caster camber bushing on the knuckle like we're doing here. So a lot of guys don't like to mess with them. But wanted to show you that, and then we're also going to go ahead and show you this axle over here. So I'll have to get it pulled out of the box. So I was talking about the different sizes and the universals. So as you can see, your old is on the left and your new is on the right. So you can see how much bigger the actual updated shafts are. So these are very strong, much stronger than what was in there, and they do fit. If you buy the new assembly from Spicer, it comes with this seal, and also comes with this spacer here, and then also comes with the updated dust seal. So it says to remove these, but if you look at a new truck, they still have these on there. So I don't know if the service part is different or if this is supposed to stay, but the directions that comes with these says that you should remove the old dust seal. So this isn't necessarily a dust seal to me because it's just a hard piece of plastic. And as you can see, the dust seal is already gone on this one. It was just never there. So as you can see, these are much larger than what was in the truck, but that is the updated style. So these will be a lot stronger than what was in it. So since we replaced the other side, we're going to go ahead and replace this side to match it. So that'll be a very good upgrade. Now, if you don't have a ball joint press of some sort, you can rent them from other places like part stores, AutoZone, Advanced Auto Parts, O'Reilly's, your choice. They do rent ball joint presses, but nothing really compares to buying a good, high quality ball joint press. Whatever you decide is best for you, you know, works. So I'm going to go ahead and press these out and press new ones in, and we'll try to show that to you on this video. So when you're doing these, do the bottom first. So like if somebody wants to come in and tell you, oh, you just need an upper, okay? Well, the easiest way and the right way is to do both. So even if the bottom one's not bad, and you replace the upper, or vice versa, the bottom one needs replaced and not the upper, you know, you're in here, so you know you got to pull all this off to do this. So this is your area here. So always pull, just do both. And while you're in there, because of these knuckle seals, which aren't cheap or easy to get out or in, you know, you're better off replacing the universal and then replacing these two ball joints since you're all the way in here. Okay, so that is something that I suggest. It's not something you need to do, but it's something that you should do. So I have a snap on one of these, and as you can see, the retainers stay on these. That's why I like this thing. So let's see if I can grab a piece of wood here. Just to stick under the knuckle. And they do come off. They just snap in, so. So with these, so your bottom goes up, your top goes up. And just like that, it's out. Okay, so then you do the same thing for the top. Now, why did I say you should do both? And it's easier to do the bottom first, because this is the right way to get this in here, at least the easiest way. And just like that, ball joints are out. So these generally don't need anything. Since I have the gloves on, I just kind of give them a good little wipe here, because that just get all the dust out of there or anything else that's in it. Okay, so now you have your upper and lower is out. You can set those off to the side. So for this, your lower is K8607T. Now this is a Moog part. Generally all I use is the Moog for ball joints and steering linkage. What you choose to use is up to you. And then your upper is a K80026. So now, when you buy these ball joints, your upper is going to show up like this, and then it's also going to have a boot and then a little bag. So your bag will have a grease fitting, a nut, and a cotter, a key in it. So set those off to the side, and then your lower will come with the boot already installed. All right. and then it'll have a grease plug in the bottom. And then also comes with its own little bag with a outside clip, grease fitting, and a nut. So set that stuff off to the side, you don't need it. And then go ahead and put your upper in first. All right, so it's up to you how you want to align your key. So if you want it to be in line or across, it's entirely up to you. Okay, so see, it doesn't go this way, so it has to go from the top in. Okay, now when you're pushing ball joints in, see how that's too big? All right, so I'll have to get a different one. See, that's too big. So you have pushers and pullers, they both do the same thing, and I'll use this one as the retainer on the bottom, but I need to get one to push on this, and it'll push right on that ridge. So this is what you're looking for here. So it'll push right on that ridge like that, which is what you want it to do. So as you can see, I went nice and easy on that. And this will I'll give you a visual on what this looks like here. So as you can see, it wants to push down that ball joint, and then you have your receiver in the bottom so that the ball joint can protrude out of the knuckle. So once you get it in there, always double check and make sure that it's fully seated, which that one is. And then you can go ahead and remove your press from the top one here. And then you can go ahead and install your bottom. All right, so it's going to be the same process here. As you can see, that one doesn't fit on here. All right, so we'll have to grab a different one that'll fit up over this one. So once again, this one goes bottom in. All right. Same thing, make sure you drive it snug here. Make sure that you're fairly lined up. You'll hear the sound change. And that's a set of ball joints pressed in. Just like so. Okay, so the bottom one gets a clip. Just like so. And clipped on the bottom. Okay, so you can put the grease fitting in now or later if you choose. I will probably put the top one in now and then put the bottom one in after it's put in, because this boot will want to compress a little bit. Sometimes, depends on how much grease they've put in, they will want to squeeze out some grease. Okay, so you have your ball joint upper here, and you notice it has this groove in it. If you read on here, it says mount inboard. So that groove goes towards the inside of the truck. And I always install those by hand because you don't want to rip that boot. Now, what we need to do here is clean this out, and we'll get that cleaned out, and I got to put the new dust seal in here. So we'll cut through that because that's not very entertaining. So let me get that cleaned up. So we got this axle tube all cleaned out here, and we're going to go ahead and get this new seal put in here. All right. So when you buy those new axle shafts, come with this bag, come with a spacer. So fancy, it says Fomoco, and directions and a seal. All right. So I had said that clean and then put the new seal in, all right, and it says how far it's supposed to go in and what it's supposed to look like. Here it says remove old seal and discard. So that is your old seal that you would pull out with the old axle, and that's so you can use these. If you're not replacing your axles, this is good information to have, because when you pull the old axles out and you put the new ones in, you should use the updated dust seal. So it would tell you to remove the old seal and the disc that's inside and get rid of it, and then install this and then put the new assembly in. Now, it does say nothing about that plastic spacer. However, I'm going to show you this metal spacer here. So this metal spacer here is for 2017 and newer, and it says to put the spacer in between your installer tool, which would be here, and then press the seal in. Now, like I said, the driver that they list here has a certain amount of depth that it'll go into the knuckle. However, that seal has to go all the way into the knuckle. You can drive it farther, but I've never seen anybody do it. So since we're not working on a 2017 or newer, it says 16 and older, do not use the spacer. All right. So this gets installed here. All right. As you can see, it kind of like popped in there. So that one is installed. Now you can put a little bit of grease here, but the axle has a little bit of oil on it, and that'll lubricate this enough. All right. And then this does what it needs to do. So get all this dirt off of here. Now, I also pulled this bushing out. All right, so we're going to go ahead and clean the inside of this bushing out. There's some crud in there just from normal wear and tear. So we'll clean the inside of this out and then put a light coating of anti-seize around it. And then I like to put just a tiny little bit inside. So basically what we did there to clean the inside out is just take off the high spots, you know, the corrosion, because you're not trying to change that bore inside of this. You know, if you use a mechanical tool, electric tool, battery, whatever you decide to use, like I just use a regular simple hand file. So see how that slid nice and easy in there? So it's not loose, but it's the right diameter to fit inside that hole, because we took all the rust off, and I just used a light emery cloth or a Scotch-Brite and just went around it real quick just to get rid of all the heavy corrosion and rust. Now I did nothing to the inside of this knuckle except for just wipe it down, and then the same thing down here, just give it a good little wipe, because you do not want to mess with these bores at all. And that's the same thing with this bushing. It is tapered inside, so you don't want to mess with that bore. Okay? So like I said, I just put a little bit on the inside right here just to facilitate this going in, just a little bit of lubrication. And then what you do is you go ahead and you put this thing up in here. Now, we've already got this seal, this dust seal installed. And this guy will just go up in here, hopefully. Okay, so I just loosely installed that bottom nut. Now this is a locking nut. As you can see, I got it to wind on there a little bit. Now, and then it stopped, all right? So make sure you put this nut on so that the lock side of it is on top. You don't want to put the locking side on the bottom, okay? So this is your upper here. So it has the key and a grease fitting. We still have to put the lower grease fitting on the bottom. We'll go ahead and thread this on. Now you can put anti-seize on these threads if you wish. I choose not to because these things need to stay. You know, you don't want these things to spin, and they generally come off without too much of an issue. So as you can see, it pulled that bottom up, and as you can see, the bottom here, it won't. I can't turn it anymore by hand because it's a locking nut. Now, you can see I had cleaned the inside of this a little bit. It's a little bit shinier. All right, so I will wipe this down. I just cleaned this up with some Scotch-Brite here. Just try to get rid of any of that surface rust that's in there. And then I also Scotch-Brited the front of this to make it nice and smooth. Get all that corrosion off of there. All right, so we have to tighten these up. Pretty sure this top one's 70 foot-pounds, and then the bottom gets 35 foot-pounds, and then 150 foot-pounds. So you'll do this one to 35, do this one to 70, and then this one back to 150. Now that is what Moog's website says. So I can look up and see what Ford says if I am able to find that information as far as torquing these down. So like I said, this bottom's a locking nut, so whatever it ends up being, it'll stay there. And then this one gets the key, so you want to torque this down and then set the key. You don't want to just run these in with an impact because that can really screw up the joint inside of here. Now I take them off with an impact, but they're junk when you're taking them off. So we'll go ahead and try to get these tightened up. So it's going to be a little hard for you to see because of the way we have to do this here. So I don't have a jack to put under here. I do. I don't want to pick it up because it's heavy. So I'll take a bar and I'll put the bar in the side back here, and I'll put tension on the ball joint. So pull against the inner C and then the knuckle, okay? And then this is 1 inch and 5/16 is what I'm using on this. So I'll pull on the bar and then pull on the torque wrench, and it'll keep the ball joint from spinning. So that's 35 there, and then 70 up here. And as you can see, that's nice and loose again. So that's 70 up the top here. That nut hits the coil spring, or the socket hits the coil spring. So then you do 150 on your bottom. You got nice tight ball joints now. So this top one here, if it doesn't line up with your key, so this key should slide right in here. So if it doesn't line up with your key, never loosen this nut, only tighten. So take this guy, bend it over, bend it down. Top is installed, bottom is installed. Okay, so we're going to wipe this out here, make sure that's nice and clean, and then get this axle shaft put in here as well. But before we do that, change your grease fittings out, all right? So this one comes with a plug, and it is 9/32. Okay, so make sure you save that plug. Make sure you save that plug, because if you don't save that plug, you might have an issue later, because if this hits, you have to take it back out, okay, and then put the plug back in, or try to find a different grease fitting that goes in here. So get this guy started here. Now on the other side, I had to spin this thing as tight as it would go to make sure that it wasn't going to hit. And this is a 3/8 wrench. So I usually like to have these grease fittings facing the front, but in this scenario, they're going to have to face the back, just so I can get them in as far as they can go. So like I said, with the older style U-joints, with the smaller ones, these can face forward, where you can get them real easy, but we're going to have to do these ones facing rearward. So just the way that it's going to have to be. Take your lower, plug out of your bottom, and then you can go ahead and put your bottom fitting in. And I do believe that these ones are 5/16. Yeah. All right, so grease fittings are in. Now, what I'll probably do here is I will grease these up now, because it's a lot easier to do with everything out of the way. So those are greased, and I like to do those before I go any farther than that, because if you don't do that, you could possibly forget. Make sure these are all nice and clean here. You can see a lot of crap. And now we are ready for an axle. So grab that axle. Before we do that though, we're going to put a little bit of silicone spray on there to help that slide. Like I said, I do that to help that slide in there. just to help that axle slide in there nice and easy. Because as you can see, it is a tight fit. Oh my, very tight. Oh, there's a ridge there. There we go. So we are seated in the differential there. You can hear the differential turning. So now yep. Okay, so now we got to drive this seal the rest of the way in. So, homemade seal driver. And that is exactly where that baby needs to be. So I'll show you the inside here to show you what you need to look for. Okay? So you can see that gets pretty tight there with the universal and the grease fitting, but not bad at all. So, and then this dust seal that I was talking about, it adds like a extra layer of security for that seal. So, show you inside here real quick. So you want to see a little bit of that lip right around the edge here. So you can see a little bit of that lip there. And then if you want to, you can also look from behind and see if it's fully seated. Now, since we have this all installed here, you can put a little bit of grease on these splines if you wish, or spray it with something, whatever you decide to do. And we're going to go ahead and put a new hub on here. First thing I like to do is I like to take this sensor out so it doesn't get destroyed. And it looks like this one got destroyed in shipping. I'll show that to you here in a second. So you can see that break there. Now, this sensor is no good to me anyway because I can't use it. It definitely had some issues here. So that's garbage, but you can reuse your old one if you wish. We have new ones on this truck because it is a 99 to 04 or 01 or 2 or whatever. They stopped changing all the wiring. So because of that, we have to use the other sensors anyway. So this is a Ford unit bearing. Now, we chose the Ford ones because they were only a couple dollars more than the Timkins. And something I noticed with the Ford ones is the hub is painted black. So as you can see right here is black. So that is different than all the others. Something else I've also noticed is the inside bearing is also not the same as, say, a Timken. A Timken is black inside and has a different inner bearing. Now, these do usually say Timken on them, and I'm trying to see if I can see a Timken on here anywhere, and I am not seeing a Timken stamped on here, just a Fomoco logo or a Fomoco up here on the top side edge, and then Japan on this plastic spacer here for the bearing. So other than that, I don't see any other branding on these. So I'm not sure who actually makes those. But I know they give you a new seal, which comes in a bag, so you have to put that on here. And then we'll put some silicone on there, some super lube, so we don't cut the O-ring putting it inside the hub here. And then you also have your new studs. So when you're doing these, Ford wants you to buy a hub seal set as well, which like we didn't need to buy that because we replaced these axle shafts and they came with the seals already pressed onto the stub shaft. The seals that go up in the knuckle here. And when you buy their hub seal kit, it comes with the knuckle seal that goes behind here. It comes with this O-ring. It comes with a new gasket for the four-wheel drive lockout hub, new bolts for the four-wheel drive lockout hub, and then also new nuts for the studs that we're just getting ready to put in here now. So if you're doing this and you're replacing these bearings or ball joints and doing all of this maintenance on these trucks, I highly suggest buying the correct pieces and parts, because you can buy all these parts individually from, say, like Timken or National or whatever brand that you actually choose to use. But you don't, you're going to end up spending as much money as it is to buy the hub seal kit from Ford that comes with all the pieces and parts. So I anti-seize these studs and wind them in here as far as they'll go. And then I also take and put anti-seize around the actual stud, because in doing this, it keeps the stud from rusting into the knuckle if you're driving your truck in the salt. If you don't do this, it's not a problem. However, doing it is definitely not hurting anything. So I also do the threads as well. And now the seal's in. We do a quick double check here, make sure everything is installed. So we have our seal put in, the axle shafts put in, our grease fittings are put in. These are torqued to spec. We got our dust seal in. The upper and lower ball joint is greased. So the only thing we have left to do now is we're going to put some anti-seize on the face of this hub. Now, you'll see the next step of this would be to put the dust shield on that we don't have because this axle didn't come with them. And I wasn't going to buy them for this truck because they're like $30 a piece, and they end up just causing problems anyway because this truck is going to get ran in the salt, which kind of sucks. But you would put a layer of anti-seize, and then you'd put the dust shield on, and then another layer of anti-seize. So just a thin coating will do. This will just help facilitate the removal process at a later time. So installing, make sure that you put your ABS sensor hole up. Make sure that your seal is going to go in there nice and easy. Okay. Now I'll wind these in nice and easy with the impact here from the back side. And we'll do it uniformly around. So as you can see, I'm just snugging those and letting it pull itself nice and even in. Because you don't want to screw up that gasket or seal. So as you can see, it's nice and even there. And that is installed there. So the only thing we have left to do now is we're going to put the ABS sensor back in before we continue any farther here, because we don't want to get anything dirt-wise inside that hole. So, all right, so now that we have the hub installed here, the wheel bearing assembly, I should say, they give you a new snap ring. Now that snap ring goes inside here, and when you go to put this on, you may have to wiggle the axle around to get it installed. So you might have to actually take a pry bar and leverage out on this universal to get this to seat in there all the way. All right, so we had to fight with that a little bit, but it's installed there. Try to show it to you inside. As you can see, it's installed there and all clipped in. So now with that installed, you want to make sure that you do that before you put the four-wheel drive hub in. And like I had mentioned before, we have the new Ford lockout hubs. Now these come with a new gasket already installed and a new O-ring here. Now if you buy the hub service kit that I had described earlier, it will come with a new O-ring here and that new gasket, and then also it will come with a new set of bolts for this. So I'm just going to sit this in here for this split second here, and I'm going to lubricate that O-ring, because this is your seal. So if you have vacuum operated hubs, this will be the seal that lets the vacuum get pulled into the hub. So this is a very important seal. You want to make sure that it is lubricated so it doesn't get cut, because the one I had pulled out, as you can see, is pretty destroyed there, right by my thumb here. You can see it's cut. So somebody put this in and didn't take note of that. Now, putting this in, I try to line these up the way I like, so that way they line up with the wheel. But as you can see, it doesn't really want to go. But I turned the hub and it went right in. So you kind of have to wiggle the hub around a little bit to get these seated. Make sure that that's where you want it. and then put that inside there. There is a torque spec for these. I do believe it is right around 30 inch-pounds. It's not much, so they basically just get snugged up. And that's all we're doing with that. It's very, very little. So free, and then we have lock. So nice and free spinning. It's tight because everything's new. And then we can go ahead and reassemble our brakes. However, that is the ball joints and outer knuckle seal replacement, along with a new hub and new lockout and new seals, and then the upgraded shafts here. Now, as you can see, there is a grease fitting on this universal. I don't like greasable universals. However, this is the only way that you can get these upgraded shafts. They come with this greasable universal. So there's nothing that I can really do about that, which sucks, but it is what it is. I don't even think that they make these in non-greasable. If they do, I haven't found them yet, or they're just a little bit difficult to find. I was searching on Dana's site, and I did find something that was not greasable, but I didn't get into checking the dimensions to make sure that they were the exact same universal as these. So these are pretty much the same as a Super 60 shaft at this point, and so that was the whole idea here. We had to replace the other side, so we replaced this side to match so that you had even torque, even rotating mass, so that way you didn't get any unusual spins. So we're going to clean this up a little bit here and paint what needs to be painted here, because it was stuff that wasn't painted when it was sent out for blasting. And we'll clean all this up in here and paint it as well now that it's all together. So the ball joint install for this truck. So we'll keep moving forward with this and get the steering linkage put on and hopefully get this truck on the road soon. Thanks for watching, guys, and we'll catch you on the next one.